Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Blasty Banter. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Today, it's all about the trades. A little bit into some of the game action we saw last week, but most of this is going to be about the trade deadline. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you want to follow me on social media, down there is the place to do it. If you're listening, that sounded weird. I have my social media things on the bottom of the screen. Anyway, let's get right into it. The Calgary Flames for the entire season have been at the forefront of several trade discussions. Swig of water for the working man. And you can understand why. You know, that they've had the biggest names that have been available, and now we're down to one, maybe two. And it's frustrating that it's these two, and we'll get into all of the frustration around this here and this particular team with everything that is going on. Let's start with the Jacob Markstrom situation. I almost said shit-situation, and that kind of sums it up. It has been a bit of a shit show around Jacob Markstrom. So word comes out last week that Jacob Markstrom had been asked to waive his no trade clause, and it sounds like a deal was in place, and then at the 11th hour it gets nixed. It would have sent him to the New Jersey Devils for something. And I think there was, at the time, I was a little bit surprised that there was a little bit of uproar towards Craig Conroy, because this screams ownership intervention, right? And then it comes out that Don Maloney was like, thanks but no thanks, we're not going to do this. There's a lot that you can process with this one. First of all, from the ownership, what are we doing here? I don't understand how you can see the product out on the ice. And I get they've been playing better lately, but you can watch for an entire season and then, 5 good days. Well, this team is right back into it. Look around at what's happening. The Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be rebuilding with Sidney fucking Crosby. The Seattle Kraken, who beat you the other night to move into a tie in the standings, are going to tear their thing down. What makes you think that this is something that, not a route that you should be going with some of your key marquee players? I genuinely don't understand how ownership doesn't see this. No other business runs like this. Now, to be fair, no other business includes tanking, right? And so if you come from a business world where Murray Edwards does, there isn't, you know what, we're going to be really bad for a few years, but that will get us in prime position to get that big building downtown, and then we'll be off and running. So tanking in the business world is a little bit weird. But also, you don't, as far as I know, and look, I'm a radio guy who's talking about hockey on the internet now, so business maybe isn't my expertise, but I would imagine you don't just go, well, we had 5 good days, so let's change the entire trajectory of what we are doing now. It doesn't work that way. You look at here, let me pull up the standings here real quick. If you wanted to squint and say, you know what? Team's playing better. This is a playoff team. Let's go, baby. We can do this. Okay, so let's look in the West, shall we? The Flames currently sitting in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th in the Western Conference, albeit with a couple of games in hand on the Nashville Predators, who are 8 points ahead of them. The Nashville Predators, who the Flames wouldn't play in a playoff series, but that one would be a nice little nip and tuck series. The other wildcard team is Vegas. We're now running through playoff teams to see who would Calgary stand a chance against. So if the Flames played the Nashville Predators, that is one where you could maybe this team wins. Preds are playing some real good hockey right now, so we'll see. But maybe. Vegas kicks the shit out of them. 4 or 5. Kings, Flames might be able to push it to 6. Oilers, 4 or 5. Canucks, over in 3. Avalanche, same. Jets, same. Dallas, curb stomps them. What is and I know what the point is. It's to get that playoff revenue, and also we just hung Mika Kiprasov's jersey in the rafters. He proved my microphone can't take it anymore. It's falling down. He proved that all you need to do is just get in and see what happens. That has been the way this team has been run for forever, and it has run this thing into the ground. It is so clearly time for a change here in Calgary, and so clearly time for this thing to just go kabloomy. I don't understand what they are not seeing. And so it's frustrating when it sounds like there's a deal done to the point where you have talked to Jacob Markstrom and he has made the decision, yeah, I'll go to New Jersey in March. Sure, why not? And then it comes back. And so now this guy who you're apparently riding all of your hopes on is pissed at you. He's just had to make a life-changing decision and then just didn't. And you look like a complete joke of an organization. So this was a really, really, really frustrating situation that I think the Calgary Flames handled poorly. Another part of this, like I guess you could say like Craig Conroy, like, hey, don't tell the guy he's going to get traded to New Jersey if you haven't got ownership approval on it yet. But I mean, I don't know the mechanisms for all these things. Maybe that's a normal thing to happen. It seems weird, but maybe it's a normal thing to happen. What I don't get about this is working, right? Like we went over it last week, what the Flames have got for the guys who they have been trading away. It's going pretty well. Like they're not going to be a playoff team this year, right? Even if they don't make these moves, this isn't going to be a playoff team this year. So, but you look at the future, there's actually quite a bit to get excited about with this Calgary Flames team. So I genuinely don't understand why they won't just let Craig Conroy, who has hit, I won't say home run after home run after home run, because a couple of them aren't, but at least extra base hit after extra base hit in all of these trades, and then, no, we're not going to let you move that one. When you have the guy next to him. Like, it's not like, all due respect, it's not like it's Dan Vladar and Oscar Dansk going in there as your number one and number two down the stretch. You have the next franchise goalie waiting in your building for the Calgary Wranglers. Like, he's right there. It's the solution. The solution that you were looking for is right there, and so you can get a like younger, cheaper version of what you have now, and also get what I would assume to be a large haul of assets coming back. I just don't get it. Which brings us to the Noah Hanifin situation. And the Hanifin situation is a little bit more complicated. He has a no trade clause. He is a pending free agent, and so he has a little bit more say in what he wants to do. And boy, the report circulates that the Tampa Bay Lightning have a contract locked in, basically, with Hanifin. Like if he gets traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning, they will sign him to an extension, and he will be a Bolt for life for a bit. Anyway, which certainly seemed like a Tampa Bay leak, I suppose, where they were like, yeah, we want to get it out there that we have an extension with him so that no other teams try to drive the bidding price up in this at all. And that's where it's a tough spot here for Craig Conroy, because you hear the teams that have been involved. It has been it's been Tampa Bay, who, like, yes, Hanifin wants to go there, and he does have a say in this, right, with the no trade clause. They don't really have a whole lot. They haven't. They don't have their first round pick for the next 2 years. There aren't a ton of amazing prospects in the cupboard there. So it is not necessarily a situation like what you would be getting from Vancouver, or from the Devils for Sharon Govich coming back and Kuzmenko coming back. This return may be a little bit underwhelming. Now, you could make a very compelling case that 2026 draft pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning could be quite the asset, given that the Tampa Bay Lightning are just kind of like holding on for dear life right now and have some major decisions to make, and potentially one of their heart and soul players. Like Kucherov is amazing and probably still will be. But like these things can change very quickly in the National Hockey League. And so a 2026 first from Tampa Bay, not the worst thing. And also, it kind of spreads the wealth out a little bit. And that's something I've talked about on the flagship show here, Couch Potato Diary. I think that they've kind of got the first round kind of locked down now, or this year's draft kind of locked down now. Start to maybe spread some of that draft capital out a little bit, so you can start reaping the rewards, spread out the contracts. There are other ways to do that, I know, but just that sort of a thing, right? So that wouldn't be the worst thing, but the prospects you'd be getting back just are not up to snuff, I don't think. Unless you're getting like multiple firsts, like 26 and 27, back from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I just don't think the other prospects are worth it to make that move. Boston has been involved. Kind of ditto for Tampa Bay. They have been out making big moves for the last, several years. And so now this is not a team that has a ton of draft capital or like young prospects to be making moves with. So it's a bit tricky. The one that I think lines up the best would be a Toronto trade. The Leafs do have, like, they have that first round pick. They have a few young players who I'm very intrigued by from a Flames standpoint. And so that would be the one that would kind of line up the best. So it's very interesting to see how all of this could play out over the next little bit. But the Hanifin one is tricky. He's going to be traded. I do not doubt that. But some of the circumstances around it may make it a bit less of a home run for Craig Conroy and company. We saw that today with Vlad Tarasenko's deal to the Florida Panthers. That is not a great trade for the Ottawa Senators, but he had full no trade, right? So he could say, he could call his shot, and call his shot he did. And that can be a little bit frustrating, but that's like, player earned it, right? It is what it is. Player earned it. Not going to hate on a guy for making a move like that. In terms of what else could be available, I have brought up a few times over on twitch.tv/primetimepk that Andrew Mangiapane could be someone who I would make available. If you could still get someone who buys into what he did a couple of years ago, I think that there could be something there. Now, you look at some of the forward deals that have been made here today, and none of them are all that overwhelming. I guess getting Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestead is really good work by Buffalo, but overall, I don't know if you're going to be getting like an absolute haul for an Andrew Mangiapane, but if someone's willing to give up like a decent draft pick and a decent prospect for an Andrew Mangiapane, I think you kind of have to consider it right now from a Flames standpoint. The other one that I would look at from a Calgary point of view would be Blake Coleman. He has been such a leader for this team this season. And he has been, like, this would be another real blow, I think, to that locker room. But again, there aren't a ton of awesome forwards out there right now, right? Like, there's Gensel, maybe Lindholm again. And that's kind of, maybe Buchnevich is available, especially now that Adam Henrique has been moved to the Edmonton Oilers. There just aren't a lot of great guys available. And Blake Coleman has won before, is producing at a high level this season, and is the type of 200-foot player that teams salivate over. So, he also has a no trade. I think you can kind of tell him, like, hey, man, you see where this is going. And so that's another reason why I thought maybe moving Markstrom when all those talks were coming out could have been valuable, because then you can go to some of your other veteran players like, look, you see the path this is going on. Do you want out? And if they say, yes, I want to go to there, then you make that trade work to there, and you try to accumulate, again, as much draft capital and prospect talent as you possibly can. So I do, while today was a bit crazy with all of the trades that went down, I do think that you look at this from a Calgary Flames standpoint, and I still think there is quite a bit left to do, and a couple of big marquee ones. If I were to make a prediction right now, I would say Noah Hanifin definitely moves. I would say Jacob Markstrom moves, and I would guess one of the depth defensemen is like at 10 minutes to the deadline. One of the depth defensemen ends up getting moved for like a fifth or a sixth round pick. That would be my guess. In terms of the Flames on the ice, I talked a bit on Couch Potato Diary, the flagship show here for the network that you're watching this on or listening to this on, about how well the Flames handled the Mika Kiprasov jersey retirement. That was so perfectly done by the Flames, and they are getting so good at these types of ceremonies. I love that the seriousness that they take this with. I love the celebration that there is around. And like, look, this is not an organization that has a long storied history, right? Like, it's one Stanley Cup, it's another 2 appearances, and a long run of what can generously be described as meh. But there are still players that need to be celebrated, and Mika Kiprasov absolutely was someone who deserved to be celebrated, and the Flames celebrated him accordingly. That was phenomenal work. And then the team on the ice, with a wild game against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have their own problems going on right now, the team on the ice goes out and gets shit done. And you just, bravo to them for going out and doing that. The game against the Kraken was, that to me, that had to be the final straw for ownership and for everyone, that, look, this isn't happening. This team is 8 games out of a playoff spot. They went 7-3 over 10 games and lost ground because the Nashville Predators are on a roll right now, and because it's really hard to make up that kind of ground in the NHL, given how the standings are at this point. So, they were outclassed by Seattle. And there were stretches there where the Flames absolutely started to take over a little bit, right? Like, they were... Like, they had a pretty good second period, but that first period was abysmal. And then the third period, the wheels, I don't want to say they came off, but they looked a step slow. And they looked outmanned against a Kraken team that is looking to blow things up, right? Like Wenberg is now on his way to the Rangers, and they have a few other pieces that they could be moving, and they're tied with you. They might even be ahead of you now in the standings. So like that game to me, it had to be the straw that broke the camel's back. All right, this one's a bit of an abbreviated one today. We did 2 last week, but was kind of thinking there might be some kind of trade happening with this team. Turns out that is not the case. So what's going to be happening here over the next couple of days? I'm going to do regular podcast tomorrow. Also regular podcast coming up here talking about all the moves that have happened. But if anything breaks, I will go live on twitch.tv/primetimepk to do a emergency breaking news show. And that will be that. And then it'll be available wherever you're consuming this. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Like the video and subscribe. If you're listening in podcast form, make sure you leave a review and subscribe. If you want more Flames talk from me, I'm going to be on Sportsnet 960 The Fans trade deadline coverage coming up on Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Catch me there. And then I'll probably do a winners and losers of the deadline show after that here on this feed. So thank you guys so much. You can find me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm at Primetime Klein, twitch.tv/primetimepk. You can email this show, couchpotatodiary@yahoo.com. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/couchpotatodiary. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been episode 3 of Blasty Banter.